All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Rob Kosberg here with our weekly BSPU call. As always, excited to be with you. Here we are, mid-February, already a month and a half of 2021 in the books. I hope your year has started off in a fantastic way. If it hasn't, or maybe you have even bigger goals than the way you've started, then I hope that today's training is going to help you to ask the questions that you need to about your business and focus in the areas that are most important. The title today is Things That Matter in Your Business. Think about the things that matter in your business. Let me start first with an explanation of what I mean. And then I'm going to dive in. We're going to go to the whiteboard today, and I'm going to give you kind of a step-by-step structure, if you will, to think about this one particular area of your business. So if you've ever been to one of my live events, or perhaps you've been around the BSP community for some time, then you've probably heard me talk about this. But we are all in two different businesses, whether we understand it or not. Whenever you ask somebody, hey, what do you do? Or what business are you in? Or if I were to ask you that question, I'd say 99 or more times out of 100, you would describe your power, the thing that you do to help others, how you serve the world, how you serve the community. That would be like me answering, well, I help coaches, consultants, experts, and entrepreneurs to write a book, publish that book, market that book to bestseller, and then use that book to make an income and an impact with their lives. And while that is certainly true, that is not the only business. And in some cases, that may not even be the most important business that you are in. The other business that you're in, and the business that if you don't grab a hold of it firmly, will actually drive you out of your passion, is the business of being the evangelist, the marketer, the mouthpiece of your business. Your business is to bring in customers and clients for the work that you do to serve the community, the work that you do that you've written about in your book, the work that you do to make a difference in the world. If you do not do that, if you don't take that job, that role, that business as serious, or perhaps even more serious than the business that you're passionate about, then oftentimes what happens is you end up getting driven out and have to take a job, or have to do the things that maybe you prefer not to do, because the business of getting customers and clients is your responsibility. And in fact, I would dare to say, irregardless, and I know some people hate that word. I actually use this sometimes because I know people hate it. It is actually a word in Webster's, by the way. Irregardless of your passion for marketing or desire for marketing, forget whether you love marketing or you love sales or you love bringing in clients. Let's say that you hate it. I believe that there are two parts of your business. No matter the size of your company, no matter the revenues of your company, there are two pieces to your business that you should always keep your hand in and stay involved in. One is the checkbook. I believe that you, as the business owner, even if you get to the size where you're doing 5 million, 10 million, 20, 30, 40, $50 million a year, you should be the one writing the checks. You should be the one looking at the invoices. You need to be the one paying attention. No one is going to pay attention to your money as closely as you're going to pay attention to it. But number two, I'm going to say, is the marketing and sales piece of your business. The actual lifeblood of your business is the marketing and sales piece of it. It is you being the evangelist, you being the mouthpiece for your business. So there are two businesses we're in: the business that we do and are passionate about, as well as the business of bringing in customers. Now, there are lots of elements to our business, right? There's the element of staffing, whether it's outsourcing or growing our business. There's the element of finance and managing our accounts receivable, things like that. There's marketing, there's sales, admin, etc. I'm going to focus for this time, for our time together on the thing that I'm good at, the thing that I'm passionate about, which is the revenue and sales end of it. So when I say you need to think about the things that matter in your business, the foundation of that is it always matters that you are focused on the things that need to be done to bring in new customers, whatever your role in that is: content creation, writing new books, appearing on stage, doing webinars, etc. Content like this, all of those things. So I'm going to focus for the next few minutes together and kind of give you a way to think about this. And I don't know where, we obviously have dozens of people on this call. I don't know where each of your businesses are at. So I'm going to take a kind of a standard benchmark as far as a goal of where you may want your business to be, or perhaps your business is far beyond it. And that's great. Then you'll be able to look at these numbers and multiply them any way you want. But we're going to focus on the revenue and sales aspect of our business for a few minutes. Okay. So I am going to go to share the screen and to the whiteboard here. And I'm going to go through kind of a step-by-step way for you to think about your business and for you to focus on the metrics and the numbers that really matter in your business to get it to where you want it to be. Okay. So let me share the screen and let's go right to the whiteboard. Now I'm going to bend this screen down some, and I think you can still see me, which is good. Hopefully you can hear me well, even though I'm a little bit further away from the microphone. So if we're focused on the revenue and the sales aspect of our businesses, then the first place to begin is, what is our revenue goal for our business? And I'm going to say, let's think about that from a monthly perspective. Okay. The first thing that we need to know, and on a regular basis have, in our minds, in our thoughts, is what is our monthly revenue goal for our business? I'm going to use just a base $100,000 per month. This, for those of you that have newer businesses, or for those of you, I think the stats are less than 4% of all businesses crack $1 million in the United States. So this would, be certainly a business at the higher end. And if your business is already there and greater, then fantastic. But let's start with $100,000 a month. So the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, what is our goal for a business? Whatever yours is, take a moment, write that down. This is what my monthly goal is for my business. Let's say that it's $100,000 per month. The next thing that we need to decide and we need to know is, what is our average client value? Or if we have a simple business, what is the cost of the program that we sell? Okay. We need to have that number, because if we're going to boil this down to the metrics that matter, we need to know what our average customer is worth, or what the program is that we sell. Let's say in this case that our average customer value is $8,000, or that the program that we're selling is $8,000. So if we do a little bit of math, we immediately find out, okay, we're going to need roughly 12 and a half customers per month to come to us so that we reach our goal of $100,000 per month. Pretty simple, right? So the next thing we need to know when it comes to thinking about the things that matter is, we need to know, okay, what is our closing percentage of our leads? This, of course, is going to be dependent upon the way that you actually bring new customers into your program. But in this example, if we're selling something that's $8,000 and we're trying to get to, or our goal is $1 million a year or $1.2 million a year business, then more than likely we're going to be doing some type of sales call. This is going to be a consultative call. If we're selling something for $8,000, people aren't going to do that by just clicking a button and putting their credit card in. They're going to have questions and they're going to want to talk to you. Okay. So we need to know what the percentage is, the number of calls that we do to get a new customer to pay this $8,000. Let's go ahead and say, and this is probably a below average, again, depending on how qualified your leads are, but let's say that your closing percentage is around 25%. meaning that when you get on a consultative sales call with somebody, every 4 calls, you bring in a new customer. Now, some of you say, well, Rob, I'm not bringing in 25% of my phone calls. Well, then you need to ask yourself, am I really having a consultative sales call when I'm on the phone with somebody? A consultative sales call means that you are making an offer, right? You're not just having a little chit chat together. You are making an offer to a qualified prospect. And when they don't immediately say yes, and some of them will, you are then going to go through and figure out what it is that they're objecting to, right? So you're going to help them to overcome their objections. You're going to help them to deal with any insecurity that they have, any fear that they have for investing. So you're going to take all of these steps. That's what a real consultative call is. And if you do it in a proper way, and I'm not talking about being a hardcore salesman or super salesy. I mean, in a consultative way, like a doctor dealing with somebody that has cancer to get them to the point to take the medicine that they need to, then you're going to close probably more than 1 out of 4, but let's call it 1 out of 4 in this situation. Okay. So if it's 1 out of 4, 25%, then we determine, okay, how many calls do I actually need on a monthly basis? Well, if we just, say it's 1 out of 4, then, we immediately know that, okay, that means if I did 100 calls, I would get 25 customers. I only need half that many. So, okay, I need to do 50 calls in a month. 50 calls in a month at a 25% closing ratio is going to get us that 12 and a half. I know you can't take a half a customer, but some months you get 12, some months you get 14. You know how that goes. So it's about 50 calls per month that you're going to need. And this is going to be dependent upon the number of days that you work, right? If you work, let's say you work 5 days a week, that's there are 4.33 weeks on average in a month. So that's, somewhere around 22 days or 23 days a month that you're working. So you're going to need somewhere around 2 calls per day that are these types of consultative sales calls, and might even say 2 1/3 calls per day. Now, does this have to be you? Of course not. As you know, I don't take any of these calls. All of these calls are routed to Austin or David, Randy previously. It could even be Bob. Bob did that in the past. So my author development coaches do all of these calls, which, by the way, means that this closing rate itself, this is a little bit lower because I don't do the calls. Now, if I did the calls as the face of the business, I would close a higher percentage. But I know, because of the goals of my company, that there's no way for me to take as many calls as we need to reach our goals. So I sacrifice some of our closing ratio so that we can serve more clients, do more business, et cetera. And then I can play the role that I'm good at, which is more the content creation, the face of the business, the evangelist of the business, that sort of thing. Okay. So this begins to boil down for us. What are the things that we really need to focus on? Now, here's where I think some people make a big mistake if they ever get to this point. Unfortunately, a lot of people never actually do the math. They never actually think about, okay, these are the numbers that matter that I need to get to in my business. But when they do it, when they think about it, oftentimes people will think about, my $100,000 a month goal, and they'll maybe have it on a whiteboard somewhere, or they'll think about, well, I need to raise the value of my program. $8,000 isn't high enough. I need to get it to 10,000. And while that's all well and good, and you could most certainly raise your closing rate by doing some things, but the real number that matters more than any other is this right here. This is the number that matters: 50 calls. Your entire focus, again, this depends how big your business is. Do you have a marketing arm of your business, or are you the one, if you're going from 20 to 100 or 50 to 100,000 a month, then more than likely you're doing the marketing piece, and you're probably doing the calls as well. If you are, then your entire focus needs to be on these 50 calls. This is the number that matters. This is the one that you need to be focused on. You don't need to worry about these others, because everything flows from here. Everything flows up. It doesn't flow the other way. Just because you have a goal of $100,000 a month. It's nothing but a fantasy unless you really begin to break down what it's going to take to get you there. So now what do? Well, it's actually very simple. Our entire focus now becomes, how do I get 50 qualified calls on a monthly basis? That's it. If you do 40 and you close a higher percentage and you get your $100,000 goal, fantastic. Then maybe you can adjust these numbers and you say to yourself, I don't really need 50. I can just get 40 qualified people and the numbers all work for me. Fantastic. But at some point, you're going to do this for the first time, and you're going to have to use some metrics that matter, right? You're going to have to figure out what the cost of your program is, what your closing percentage is, and you're going to back that up to the number of calls that you need to make. And here's the thing. If you don't get your 50 calls, then you should never be surprised when you don't make your income goal. It's actually the other way around. If you don't get your 50 qualified people to speak to, then you should be surprised if you do make your goals. It means that maybe you need to adjust your goals. Maybe you need to adjust the number of calls that you need. Now, just to be clear, I am a great believer in using my book, and we'll get to the book in just a moment. I'm a great believer in using my book to position myself as an authority to become the hunted rather than the hunter. Nothing here, though, conflicts with that idea, just so you know, okay? Nothing conflicts with it. We don't want to just be reactive, meaning we're waiting for the telephone to ring. I believe in using your book proactively. Using your book proactively means I need to figure out, right? I need to think, how do I use my book right here to get these 50 calls? That's what I need to do. So let's talk about a couple of different ways, but these numbers are numbers that you should be thinking about. This is what you need to think about in your business so that you can be where you want to be. Let's go ahead and get a new whiteboard, and let's talk about a couple of different things that we could potentially do. So let's say that you need those 50 calls, okay? Well, you could do a challenge or mini group. They're similar, though not the same. Now, once you get good at a challenge or a mini group, you might only need to do one of these in a month and you'll get to 100,000. In fact, I did 4 mini groups, 4 challenge/mini groups last year, and I averaged $250,000 from each one of those. The first one was the best. I did over 400,000. The last one I did about 150. So they declined a little bit, but that was also due to the times, right? So you might only need to do one mini group in a month, and you're able to by far exceed your goals. Now, you're going to have to figure out all the elements of that. There's ads involved in that, right? And there's marketing involved in that. And there's elements, but again, all we're talking about is how do we get to our goal of this 50 calls, okay? So number one might be a challenge or a mini group. Well, let's say that you're not going to do that, or you're not quite where you need to be when it's that. Well, what about a LinkedIn campaign? I've shown you a number of different times, even just last week, how you can run your own LinkedIn campaign. Our LinkedIn campaign gets us an average of about 25 calls per month. That's what our LinkedIn campaign does. And on those 25 calls per month, remember, we're selling something that's a much higher ticket. Our average is 25,000. We've sold 3 clients for roughly 75K using our LinkedIn program. And that's 25 calls per month that we're getting, that the sales team is getting. Now, you may say, well, I'm going to do the LinkedIn campaign myself. I probably won't get 25. I might get 10. Okay, great. So you got 10 right there. Let's say that you're not going to do this at all. All right. Well, what else are we going to do? Well, maybe you need to start looking at building out some type of free plus shipping or just a regular free book funnel, right? Something that's going to attract people to you on a regular basis because you're appearing on the media, you're on podcasts, right? Maybe even, and I'm going to talk more about advertising in a second, but let's say that, Facebook organic traffic or blog post or various other things. And because of that, you need some place to send those people to. right? They're going to hear you on the media. They're going to see you on TV. They're going to see you or hear you on a podcast, or maybe you're in a Facebook group organically and you're sending people, hey, get a copy of my free book. You're putting them through the funnel. And with something like this, you're probably going to get 5 to 10 qualified prospects a month, depending on how much you work, because this is all organic right here. We're just, at the moment, I'm just talking about organic. I'm not talking about using ads or paid traffic or anything like that, right? This is organic as well. We're talking about, something organic when it comes to a LinkedIn campaign. Many of you have run organic mini groups and challenges. And when you do that, you're not going to make 250,000. You're not going to have enough calls for 1 month, but you may get 3, 4, 5, 6 really good and interesting clients that are interested in having a conversation with you. Okay. What about some type of case study funnel? A case study funnel is where you share about maybe an example in your book. So I have like 20 different case studies in my book in the various chapters. And what I've done with those case studies in my book is I've taken and I've created videos that relate to the case studies in my book. And then when I share about those case studies on Facebook, whether it's organic or ads, I then drive people in to see the video, to see the case study, and ask them if they're interested in having a one-on-one strategy session call, right, with a member of my team. So again, this is another organic type strategy, but with something like this, you could easily get another 5 to 10 calls per month, right? Now, what I do, and you know what I do, but what I do, because we want 300 to 500 calls and opportunities per month, is we want to use some type of paid media, paid traffic. Now, if you use paid traffic with any of these sources, if you use paid traffic with a free plus shipping funnel, you'll get all the leads you want from that. If you use paid traffic with a case study funnel, you'll get all the leads that you want. If you use paid traffic to some type of challenge or mini group, then you'll get all the traffic you want. But you are having to pay for that, right? So you need to then determine, what does it cost me to get those 50 calls? For me, it cost me about $75 per call for me to get those, for me to get 100, 200, 300, 500, do the math, about 75. Some cost me more. AdWords cost about $100. LinkedIn is about $150. This is not LinkedIn organic, that's LinkedIn paid. Facebook is about $50, but the quality is poor on Facebook, to be quite honest with you. And then of course, LinkedIn organic is actually very cheap, because we get 25 calls per month and it only costs us about $100. So that's about 40, and the quality is pretty good, but they need to be warmed up. So there's a warm-up process. Okay. So what am I saying here? What I'm saying and explaining is that, to go back to our other explanation, our other sheet, this is where we make a determination. What is the most important thing, right? It's not just having the goal of a nicer home, or retiring your spouse, or getting your business to cross that $1 million mark. We don't want to focus our attention here, even though this is the fun thing to think about, because everything flows from the metric that we start with, which is how many conversations need to take place with a salesperson on your team or with yourself to get you the goals you want. When you figure out these metrics, when you think about that and you write those things down, now you're thinking the right way. Now, all that matters, because this is the number you're focusing on, all that matters then becomes, okay, Rob, how do I get those 50 calls if that's what the goal is? I want to run a challenge. Fantastic. Great. Let's talk about that. I want to run a mini group. Great. Let's talk about what that looks like? I want a LinkedIn campaign. Awesome. By the way, I do all of these things, right? I don't just do one of these things. I do all of them. I have a case study funnel, free plus shipping funnel, organic LinkedIn campaign. I do challenges. I do mini groups. I do paid media on everything. I'm doing it all because I'm always looking for a better way to get qualified prospects into my company. And I use my book as the centerpiece of all of it, right? The book is where I drive the traffic back to. The book is what positions me. It's what positions our company in the right way. But I know I need to get a certain number of calls into my office on a daily basis. And if I don't do that, then I'm failing my company, all of my staff and employees, their families, et cetera. This is what I focus on. What my goal is to make those calls happen, because when they do, everything else flows from that. Okay.